final one I read for this little video is called The Groping Ghost. Not that kind of ghost. Anyways, this starts with a little narration. Strange are the ways of the unknown, but stranger still is the mind of man. What was the horror that looked at Wingate Mansion? Oh, on what quest did it wail, and how, forever searching. Two twin brothers held it secret, and only they could answer, for the terror that reaches out from its hideous coils came from something unearthly. But anyways, this starts with a meeting of something called the Adventurers Club, discussing the supernatural. Everyone in there is mocking the idea that ghosts exist, until one man, Victor Pearson, famous metaphysicist, renowned for his genius, says, "Gentlemen, I have been listening to you for some time now. What if I were to tell you a ghost story? A story that actually happened. Would you believe me?" They say, yeah, we'll believe you if you can conclusively prove it. So he decides that he's going to tell them a story that only he can prove.
Well, it all began many years ago. I first met Jack and George Wingate at college. They were twin brothers, but as different as day is from night.
He starts by talking about how he's good friends with one part of a set of twins back in college. Now, he really liked Jack, who was the good twin, effectively, while his brother George was the evil twin. Like, that there's no other way to determine it. It literally says Jack was steady, reliable, clean-cut, while George was greedy, cunning, and scheming. So, good evil twin. He talks about how they became really good friends over the course of the years, and that after they separated for a few years and lost contact, while he was in the area where he knew Jack lived, he decided to visit. He finds that Jack is actually a blind, crippled old man now. He basically hurt himself on an experiment that he blew up a while back. So anyways, he meets his young, beautiful wife, which immediately, I guess, a young, beautiful wife married to a crippled old man. His friend Jack's going to die, and he's going to marry the young, beautiful wife. Needless to say, I was right. Well, Jack dies a couple days later after Pearson leaves, and...
How did it happen, Adrian? I still can't quite believe Jack is dead. It was George who found him. He said Jack tripped accidentally on the stone balustrade of the north wing and fell. Oh, what shall I do?
Now, obviously, Pearson does not believe that this is what really happened. I mean, but, with this little panel here, you would think that Pearson is the one who shoved him down the stairs. Just look at that. That's the kind of look you give the Green Goblin while he's hugging Mary Jane. He cries about Spider-Man not being seen for a few days. Anyways, we immediately cut to the fact that George, the evil twin, and his wife are talking about how they killed Jack, and now they're trying to kill his wife. Otherwise, all of Jack's money is going to go to his wife, not George.
What shall we do with the meddler, you fool? I told you to get rid of Adrian before any of her friends arrived, and now she'll inherit the estate. Leave it to me. This dagger will finish our task.
However, when they try to kill the wife, this smoky ghost appears out of nowhere and kills George's wife while telling George, "I'll be back for you." Now, George managed to get away, with his wife having died from an apparent heart attack. At least that's what the investigators said. And George slowly begins to mentally crumble as time goes on. Now, before long, as they're trying to figure out what happened, the ghost reappears and grabs the wife of George. However, after grabbing her all over for a moment, it just leaves her alone, unharmed. And they're trying to figure out why that was the case. Later on, when Pearson is sleeping upstairs, the ghost appears before him and also grabs him all over before just randomly decides to leave him alone. And again, they can't figure out what it is until Adrienne, the screams from the other room. Pearson quickly runs in there to try to save her, only to discover that George is attempting to kill her to complete his mission and inherit everything. Now, George is completely lost, that he's gone mad just in general, and quickly beats up Pearson
You thought my brother's death was an accident, didn't you? I pushed him. The house, the estate, they're rightfully mine. He had no right. Do you hear? Jack was strange. I hated him.
And is about to kill Adrian when the ghost appears and says, "At last, George Wingate, at last, come into my everlasting embrace. Don't you know who I am?"
Jack! No! You're dead! I saw you with your head bashed in!
And so the ghost kills the twin brother, George, and sets the mansion on fire, bringing it both down on them. And we cut back to the Adventurers Club, where it's revealed that, yeah, Pearson married Adrian because he's the young, nice-looking guy with the young, nice-looking wife now, as opposed to, Jack, who is the crippled old man. And he reveals later that, well, the reason the ghost kept grabbing everyone is because it was Jack's ghost. And Jack was still blind in ghost form. So he had to grab you to make sure it was you before he killed you, because he didn't want to murder an innocent person. That wasn't a very good twist. It was kind of obvious. I mean, the ghost practically spells out immediately that he is Jack and he's trying to kill the two people who murdered him. But apparently it's so shocking. These men are just... Their eyes are popping out of their skull. I mean, look at that. Like, this is the scariest freaking panel in the entire goddamn... This is the scariest panel in the entire comic. And it's just like... So, yeah. So anyways, I would probably give that one a 5 out of 10. Unlike The Devil, there was actually a couple decent ideas in there. However, it wasn't as interesting as the previous ones. It was more along the lines of Love from a Plant. I mean, there was an idea there, but it doesn't feel like the comic had enough time to do it, or the writer didn't really know what to do with it. One of the two. One of the things I didn't really talk about much as I went through this, but wanted to comment on, was just how strange a lot of the art is. I mean, you got, like, the art in this is always a bit questionable, but that's mostly because it's got that old 1950's kind of style, the weird kind of style. You see it all the time in older comics. But this one just has weird faces, like characters go cross-eyed, or you have characters with expressions that don't match the scene, or things like George, the evil twin, his face just kept morphing throughout the comic. Sometimes looking like he's a squat hunchback, other times he looks like a normal guy. The only time it really ever felt appropriate was when he was going nuts, and that's when his face was supposed to be contorting and looking all weird, as opposed to what it does normally. I'm glad he could join me in my small little jaunt through 1950s horror comic. It was a riot for me. And, yeah, that's all I gotta say. Join me next time when I talk about whatever book I decide to talk about this time. Oh, and remember, with every book comes an adventure, and every adventure is worth having, even the bad ones.